Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to share a few things with all of you, particularly because educators, in a way, decide the future of a country. So the value that you are going to make will be immense to this country. And I wanted to share a few thoughts on how I have seen skill evolving in the country and how it could be, in a way, speeded up, in a way, scaled up, and also in a way mainstreamed. So how does one go about doing that? So that was the broad area in which I wanted to speak with you. Firstly, I think an important need to realize is how the world's economy is changing, and we of course see a small patch of it currently, something which we would have never thought of ever in our life, that the economy of the entire world is actually sucked. This is not something which you would normally think about, but that's happening, and that shows the difficulties the world often faces from changes that occurs. But the change which I want to bring to your notice is about technology. And as all of us know, there are certain types of technology which are life transforming, and they change the civilizational context. If you look at our civilization, then among the few big changes that has come are things like, for example, when somebody first discovered wheel, and then you had basically it made mobility so much easier. We discovered fire as a civilization; it made life much easier for us. But similar kind of life transforming technology is what we see in the internet and the digital world that happened in 1990s, 80s, and 90s, eventually reaching the public in 1990s. And that's life transforming, and we are actually in the infancy of it. How we communicate, how we connect with each other, what we see around us, everything is changing, and information has become very, very powerful medium, a very powerful tool in a way. So I think we have to appreciate this life transforming technology that has come in our life, and how that's going to change the world from here onwards, and that we have just lived about 15, 20 years of it. And some of the things which immediately occurs to me is how we are organized as an economy, and also how we are organized for teaching children about the world. So if you look at how we are organized like Industry 2.0. That's the time when we began to build factory lines. And then, if you're making a car, you had a factory line, you had a chassis, and then you fitted the door. So there was a factory line through which that entire chassis went, and at the end of the line was essentially a car that waited the customer to buy. Now it's almost similar manner that we have organized our teaching. If you look at it, this is almost like subconscious transference. What happens in one end actually impacting the other end, where you will find people move from class 1 to class 10 in a very, very systematic way, class 11, 12, and then go into job market. That's the way the world was organized. But now the world is changing. Firstly, few things which is happening is extremely fast and disruptive manner in which technology is changing. So that's a very important aspect of what we see. Because of that, nothing seems to be stable. Nothing seems to be. Nobody seems to know what kind of jobs will emerge tomorrow. What kind of technology will emerge and disrupt what we do. So, if you look at maybe 10 years back or 15 years back, nobody would have thought about Uber, and nobody would have thought shared riding is possible with central connectivity that actually connects everyone, the customer's family, the driver, and the owner of the car, and everybody. So this disruptive nature of the world is something which has arrived, is going to get even more complex as we go along, making life much easier in some sense, as we all realize, but also challenging our old paradigms. So, a few of the paradigms which we will challenge is relating to how we impart education. Um, uh, to us who have been educationists and who have loved to share knowledge, what we have done traditionally is acquired a lot of base knowledge, which perhaps may not be related directly to the industry at a given point of time, but then is important for the growth of the human civilization, and therefore, we are building brick by brick knowledge, and strengthening it. But when it comes to jobs now, if you look at an employer, then his way of looking at candidate had changed. Earlier, he was okay if you were somebody who had generic knowledge and were intelligent enough to pick up new knowledge while at job. But now he knows that his own model is going to change so rapidly that he wants someone who is concurrent with the current knowledge of how his systems operate. So whether you are in logistics, or whether you are in retail, or whether you are operating in IT, any of the sector, people want somebody who has the latest know-how, and how you could connect the employer without too much of loss of time to the immediate know-how, because he knows that what is immediate know-how is going to be not an immediate know-how maybe 1 year, 2 year, 3 year down the line, and that whoever comes in will also have to keep learning. So that's the expectation. So I guess skills therefore becomes very important to be embedded in education, in the traditional way of doing academics. We need to really build skills into it, because that skill actually gives the signal to the market that yes, you have somebody who has all the knowledge that is required in a generic sense, but also has that added cutting value add, which makes it relevant for the industry, and that you could therefore immediately absorb that person and utilize him for the nature of your job. So I think this is an important realization which I think is gradually coming in, and we have found that when we did our analytics to check whether people who get skilled through NSDC uh, are they valued by industry, and if they are valued, then how much are they valued? So what we had found is that any person who doesn't get skilled but still gets a job, compared to that person, somebody who gets skilled through our ecosystem and gets a job, and it's usually a 3 to 4 months of skilling, so it's a short time skilling. There's a reason why short time skilling is important, and I'll explain that separately. But the difference between these two, in terms of the money which the industry is willing to pay, is almost 15%, which is pretty high. So if somebody who is new, unskilled, and gets a job, gets paid about 8,000 rupee per month, then in the case of somebody who gets skilled and then gets a job, he gets paid 9,000 rupee um, per month. So therefore, there is a 1,000 rupee differential. I'm talking of approximation. It's a generalization across many sectors. So this is like a randomized sample survey done across sectors. Some sectors actually show more than others, like jewelry, by the way, gems and jewelry, seem to show more of differential among the skilled and the unskilled. So 15% differential is a very high differential, and if you apply simple game theory and Nash equilibrium, what you realize is that the industry must be uh, gaining at least 30%, because that's why he's willing to give 15% to someone whom he's hiring and he believes is skilled. So therefore, the productivity level changes by almost 30% in a way. So therefore, it's very important to think through how does one capitalize on the skilling need of the industry, and then embed skilling into the academics that one does. And there are wonderful frameworks which actually has been made in the past by Ministry MHRD actually, and I think at that time it was Ministry of Labor also working alongside Ministry of HRD. This is almost like 2013. It precedes Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, but there's something called National Skill Qualification Framework, which in a way defines how would you measure competencies of skills, and how would you like to connect horizontally skill levels and also academic levels. I think that's a work which is incomplete at the moment, and more work is needed from both sides, from the academic side and the skill side. And how does one integrate these two worlds? I think is something on which a lot of attention is needed. So I wanted to leave this important thought with you, because I believe that going forward, not just within India, but across the world, skilling will get more and more currency. And we find even in our draft new education policy, vocational education has come in a big way. And It's happening globally. I've found that this is something which we discussed in the World Economic Forum. We, in fact, have a discussion even today evening in the World Economic Forum, though that's related to the COVID situation and how that's impacting the economy. But the fact that you need to have skills sitting alongside all thinking relating to economy has gained mainstream across the world. And therefore, it's important for education to adopt that thought process and see how these embedding can occur. And there are various models which we have developed. I mean, many of you would be aware that we operate in almost 6 to 7,000 schools across India. I think 27 different states. in about 25 plus different vocational education curriculums and through our training partners. And we touch the lives of almost 6 lakh children every year in class 9, 10, 11, and 12. So therefore, we have models which we have made to work up to a certain level. I do realize that there is a need for improving it, and I think we'll have to sit together and apply our brains commonly. There are some models which we have found to be excellent, like we brought in a model from Sweden called Kunskapsskolan model, that's being led by Manav Ratna University in the case of India. And we found that it actually has tremendous positive value because that's a unique way of how it is given in Sweden. We adapted to the context of India, made it more skill oriented. Similarly, we're also trying to get models from Finland, which is supposed to be one of the best when it comes to bringing both skills and education together. So that's another model which we're working at. So these are a few things which I wanted to share, and a little bit maybe about NSDC also and what we could do together. As NSDC, we play several roles. One is we are almost like a developmental banker. We actually lend money to various private institutions, including educational institutions, but private, where essentially we help them build a capacity for skilling. And the idea is that there should be capacity within the country for youth entering labor force and being able to upskill themselves, skill themselves, and also for current laborers who wants to upskill themselves, because we need to get into the whole concept of lifelong learning. So for both this part, where new entrants who come into our workforce as well as the ones which are already there and wants to upskill themselves or reskill themselves, capacity for both of it. At the moment, we have ended up creating capacity for almost 50 lakh uh, people being skilled every year, skilled or reskilled or upskilled. And then, of course, we have a portfolio of almost 900 crore lending that we have done to almost 600 different partners, which are spread across India. They run about 9,000 plus centers across India. So that's what we have managed to do. And we have got almost 37 different sectors in which we operate, which includes very wide kind of range, um, gems and jewelry to aviation to tourism to healthcare and to logistics. So it's a wide range, almost anything which is important for economy. We work in that, pharma. So I think many of you could be in different fields, and I would encourage you to explore the possibility of integrating skills into your system, and then we'll be more than happy from our side to assist you in that. So this is one part of the work that we do. The second that we do is through the sector skill councils. We connect with industry to understand what is the nature of the job role or the jobs that is emerging in the market. So, for example, if COVID has come, is it going to change the nature of healthcare workers that they demand? Would there be a new type of let's say a new type of um, skills that they need, competencies that they need? If that's the case, then we build up what we call qualification packs and national occupation standards. These are competency standards which are built up in discussion with industry. They have an expiration date to ensure that they don't get very old. And at the end of 2 or 3 years, if they have become old, we go back to industry, update it. So that's the manner in which we have created. It's almost 2,400 different courses that we have built over time, covering all the 37 sectors that I was speaking of. Some of them actually focused on persons with disability who might actually require a different kind of skilling altogether. And we almost train 10,000 persons with disability and get jobs to them. So this is one aspect on which we focus our energy. And we also, with the help of Sector Skill Council, identify what is the level of job requirement in different parts of India, and how do you connect the labor demand with labor supply. So we try and make both the ends meet. We have also developed now platforms, electronic platforms through which this information sharing can happen, and people can get employed based on the skills that they have. So this is the second thing that we do. A third thing that we do is we partner with various uh, private firms to help our people migrate abroad, because a lot of them go out, but maybe they are not skilled enough, and that creates its own problem. So we have developed partnership with almost 50 different groups who have about 600 different centers and send about 40,000 people outside India every year to countries like, for example, Japan. And in the case of Japan, we have found something very interesting that Japanese are very keen that Indians should be able to speak the Japanese language. And when we have been teaching Japanese language to different states, the one where the uptake of Japanese seems to happen the fastest is in Tamil Nadu. So apparently, the structure of Tamil language and structure of Japanese language seems to have some similarity. So Tamil students tend to pick Japanese really fast. So in about 6 months, which might take somebody from Odisha and Bihar about 9 months. And therefore, we have been training people and trying to create opportunities for them outside the country too, in Japan. And a similar kind of initiative is there. As you know, UAE is a good destination. In UAE, what we have tried to do is upskill our workers and uh, build and certify their skill capacity to such an extent that if the UAE government is actually issued a kind of it's a kind of experimentation at the moment, but it's evolving towards a policy that if they hire a worker whom we have certified, then the local employer has to pay 50% less tax to UAE government for bringing that person from outside. So if he has to give 2,500 dinar, normally he's going to give only the 1,000 approximately, or maybe less than that, if it is going to be somebody we are certified, because they believe that the persons we are sending have far better skills and therefore they are superior. So that's another discussion that had been happening for a while with UAE government, and we have reached that stage where we are able to have been able to send some workers like that. Similar kind of workers we have sent to Saudi Arabia. So these are building up as an exercise, and I would see that many of these would be good opportunities for the educational institutions that are present today and are part of the discussion. The idea would be that if you are interested and if you can reach out to us, we'll be more than happy to support you develop the capacity for skilling. And once I think you, with your network, are able to expand skill in a big way in the country, I think the quality of skill and the discussions that happens around skills will change in a very significant way. So I would be extremely keen that you take keen interest on having skills as part of your system wherever you are. And please reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you in all the three areas that I was talking of. There are multiple areas there where we work. We do a lot of analytics to understand what is the level of unemployment in India. For example, we know that as per the latest accounting, there is almost 2.30 crore people in India who are unemployed, of which 2.10 actually are in the age group of 15 to 30, and within that, almost half of them are students. So that's a very interesting insight because you get a sense where should you focus. We have state-wise breakup too, and we know which state to focus for what. We have in a way decomposed India into about 100 to 110 different economic clusters, and we know in which cluster what is the nature of jobs that is more likely to be available. We are trying to promote those too. And we have also tried to, in a very structured way, bring about entrepreneurship. And we do a lot of teaching on entrepreneurship. But I think getting that embedded in the manner in which countries like Finland do in educational institutions would go a long way in building the culture of entrepreneurship within the country. As you know, as a culture, we have always been very entrepreneurial until the British came and made us clerks. So I think it's very important that we go back to our basic nature, where we were very entrepreneurial, and that's the reason why Indian civilization has thrived for so many centuries and is famous for a lot of discoveries that happened in this world. So it's important that we move towards that basic nature that we have. And I really look forward to partnering with many of you, whoever is interested in taking this skill agenda forward. Thank you, ICT Academy, for giving me this chance. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.